Hey guys, Alec Hunter back here for another series review on 5 9 Gaming. Today we are talking about Invincible, the Amazon Prime series, and joining me is Iz. How you doing, Iz?
I'm doing fairly well, Alec. A little groggy here and there, but we're all good.
Early morning recording sessions are always fun.
Yeah.
So, just to be straight up with you guys, spoiler alert in effect. Right now, we are going to talk about everything about this series. We're not going to hold back on plot details or anything like that. And if you guys are enjoying the content we're putting out here, why don't you go ahead and throw us a like, maybe give us a comment about your favorite part of Invincible in the comment section below. You have actually read the comic book, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I have not. So you are more knowledgeable about this series than I am. And it's a fairly old comic book, right? Like it came out like a decade or so ago.
Yes, if my knowledge is correct, it came out a decade or so ago, but it actually didn't finish until 2017, and then they came up with like a double-sided issue, like a double stacked issue on 2018 for like its final thing.
Okay. And this is created by Robert Kirkman, the same guy who did The Walking Dead, correct?
Yep.
Right. Now, before we get into the actual show review, how faithful to the comic book is this show?
Faithful to the comic, it's actually pretty spot on. Obviously, some characters are a little different color skin here and there. It's not really that much big of a deal. And then some character designs a little bit different, but it's actually really faithful. The only other one huge glaring difference is that there are certain story plot points that weren't necessarily supposed to happen just yet. But when given in an interview, Robert Kirkman said like he moved these events to like earlier than supposed to, and like just change things around because he wanted the viewer to get more invested into the show. Like at the end of the first episode, Omni Man killing the Guardians of the Globe and just having that whole entire like little plot point. He said that he wanted that to be like the start of the show, so that way he could get people wondering like, oh, is Omni Man really evil, or is someone controlling him? What's his motive? And it's something for viewers to like think like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, is this going to continue? Like, what's the deal? What's going on? So it's very, very faithful, and it's again like doing something different, doing something a little different at the same time, and I've loved it.
Right on. Now, speaking of Omni-Man murdering the Guardians of the Globe, this show is incredibly violent.
Very much so, yeah.
It is definitely not a cartoon for kids. During that particular fight scene, Omni-Man literally crushes some dude's skull, like with his hands, just squish. I mean, and they're very detailed in what happens in that fight. I don't think beyond that particular fight, any of the gore was as intense throughout the rest of the series. But like, after that first episode, which felt like this wholesome superhero origin story, and then like you come into this post-credits scene where this dude who looks like J. Jonah Jameson is just tearing people apart. It's like, holy crap, you just were not ready for that, or at least I wasn't.
Yeah.
But they definitely didn't spare on the violence. Like I said, this is probably the most jarring moment of violence, I think, in the entire series, because it does kind of feel like it comes out of nowhere. And then after that, you're kind of prepared for it. So maybe I was just desensitized for the rest. But the whole thing was a lot of fun. I like how he ends up teaming up with those the teenage superheroes. What was it, Teen Team?
Yeah, Teen Team.
Yeah. I really like the character of Adam Eve. I think she provides like a good counterpoint for Invincible's naivety. Like, she has experience and she's trying to help him out. I think they have a good dynamic in the show.
Yeah, I agree with you that one. It's like he goes in, like he's the type of person to go in, rush in, without a plan, but like she likes to, step back, and then just think, it's like, okay, what do I need to do here? Like, what's the best like course of action?
Other side characters that I don't particularly care for, the character of Amber. Like, she ends up throughout the season becoming Mark's girlfriend, and then they end up breaking up. I didn't really like the way the character was written. Like, she's completely justified in being mad at Mark for, missing things and all that. That's a typical superhero trope. Like, Spider-Man goes through that stuff all the time. But I don't know, just the way they wrote her, or maybe the way the voice actress acted it, I just didn't particularly like the character throughout the whole series.
Yeah, Amber was, in the comics, she is a little bit more different. Like, they gave, like, if I'm not mistaken, Amber was a little bit more, how you say, the same thing as Mark. She's a little more naive. Like, she wasn't necessarily thinking for herself. While on this one, they made her, like, more aware. But even then, it's just, I didn't like her in the comics. She was like kind of meh to me, and still didn't really like her in the show. I mean, she gave some sort of semblance to like being, trying to show Mark some more responsibility to like, for his actions and all. But like, even then, when even though like, she obviously finds out that he's invincible, like she knows he's a superhero, but still decides that it's not fair that he doesn't tell her until like the second to last episode, instead of telling her when he decided to become a superhero. And I just felt like if you know that superheroes are supposed to keep their secret identity to protect the ones that they love, and you find out that the one that you love is a superhero trying to protect you, why even start an argument at that point when it's like, it's not their choice. It's like, you don't know like what's going on in their life, and yet you still want to have an argument. I just never.
Right. It makes her come across as really petty when she says, "I know you were invincible.
Yeah.
And I don't care." Basically,
it's just ugh.
It's like, oh, your time with me is more important than you going out and saving people. And it felt really kind of a 180 from the character who works in a soup kitchen.
Yeah, very much so.
It just didn't feel like she should understand that level of sacrifice and the selflessness that goes into that.
And then,
I don't know.
And then what I just don't get is the fact that she goes and says, "Oh, I know you're invincible. Like, I know you're the superhero." But then Adam Eve comes out of nowhere and saying like, "Oh, I'm Adam Eve," and she's like, "What? You are?"
I didn't see that coming, right? Yeah, like, oh man, it's like, it's such a poorly written character, I think, is the biggest problem for me.
Honestly, yeah.
Now, on the flip side, a very well-written character that I don't like is Rexplosion from TNT.
I had a feeling.
He is written to be hated, and he is written so well.
Yeah.
Oh. Like the scene where Adam Eve comes in and catches him and Duplicate together.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that dude is such a slime ball. I hate him, and I love that I hate him.
I mean, the man really got on with all three Duplicates, but like at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're supposed to hate him, but then he also has some redeeming qualities, like, yeah, he's a total prick. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about anyone, but when it comes to it, like during like the final episode, not even during the final episode, during the fight with Machine Head, after Invincible gets, his stomach caved in, Monster Girl loses her face.
Oh my god, that was so
just the fact that he decided that like he and everyone else was just like, all right, that's it, like we can't around anymore, like we need to get this done. And it's like, that's where like, yeah, he's an but like he's a really good superhero as well. Like he's able to do stuff, and that's why I also hate him. But like, you have to admit he is kind of a good guy.
Oh yeah. Like he has his redeeming qualities, but he is such a d-bag.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've kind of just talked about bits and pieces, things that we've liked, things that we haven't particularly liked. The actual story itself is about Mark Grayson, who is the title character, Invincible. He gets his powers. He knows his father is from another planet. He's a Viltrumite. Is that the correct word?
Yeah, Viltrumite.
So think Kryptonian, but I don't even want to say evil. Kryptonian Saiyans almost, really.
Yeah.
Like they go out and they conquer and they add to their empire. I mean, that's what they do. It's just for some reason Omni Man decided to pretend to be a superhero for 20 years before taking over Earth or trying to take over Earth. That's the one thing I really didn't get is why did he wait so long?
So realistically, he only waited that long is because he wanted to. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think in on Viltrumite, they obviously they created this empire. They started expanding, whatnot, yada yada yada. I think for every person that was sent to go conquer a planet, I believe they're also supposed to make an offspring of that planet. So
okay.
It would make sense why he waited 20 something years, because obviously you have to wait for to meet someone to let you, and now that and then he finally had Mark didn't have his powers until he was almost 18.
Right, and that's why he said this changes everything.
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. There's a couple of, they don't say it directly in the show that it has to do with the fact that the kid has to have powers before he activates or whatever. But now that you say it with the context clues that are in there, I can see it.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is that they gave another big context clues that I don't think anyone picked up on. I believe it was in the second. I believe it's in the second episode where like the Flaxons were coming into conquer Earth, and then obviously at the end of the episode, Omni-Man comes in and then takes the leader and then goes inside the portal to their planet. What's even crazier is that instead of saying Earth isn't like Earth is my protection or whatnot, he says Earth isn't yours to conquer.
Right.
So it also showed that, giving a little context clues earlier on, that Omni-Man is here to completely conquer Earth.
Right. Speaking of the Flaxon attack scene, oh my lord, he tears that entire planet apart.
Yeah.
Dude, that was some of the best like minimalist animation I've seen in this series, because they didn't do it all in detail. There was all like silhouettes and shadows, and they have this really cool effect where he starts flying really fast and like catches fire.
Yep.
Oh, that was such a cool scene.
Yeah.
But so as we were saying, Omni-Man, the Viltrumite, he was sent to Earth to conquer it, apparently to also have offspring. Mark, however, was raised being told that the Viltrumites were superheroes, that they were, these guardians, protectors, and that's what he wanted to be. He said several times in this series, I want to be just like you, to his dad, which at the time that he said it, he had no idea what his dad was really like.
Yeah.
But so he Omni-Man kind of creates his own largest roadblock by lying to Mark for his entire life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he kind of shot himself in the own foot there.
Right? It's like he taught him to defend Earth, not to follow Viltrumite. He raised him to defend Earth, and that's what Mark does at the end. Is he stands up to his dad. I mean, he gets his crap kicked in. I mean,
very much so. Yeah.
Choosing the name Invincible was really optimistic.
Yeah, but what I actually liked about what both the comic book and the show does is that, his name is Invincible, but he gets his ass kicked so much. It kind of it kind of just plays off like, you know, I don't know how you say it perfectly, but like it's just like, yeah, I'm invincible at completely getting my but not dying at least. You know?
Yeah, I mean he never dies, I'll give him that.
Yeah, but he's just, oh boy, the amount of times. But it also goes to show that he still has more room to grow. You know, at the final episode where his dad says, you know, you live, like, I've lived for over 1,000 years and stuff like that. That's going to be Mark. So Mark still has plenty of room to grow, especially as, you know, superhero. So it's not like, yeah, he's gonna constantly get his kicked. There's gonna be time where that's going to stop, and he's the one that's gonna kick other people's. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you had to kind of rate the first season overall, the story of the first season and how the show itself was produced, where would you put it in like a letter grading scale?
Letter grading, I'd say a cool A-.
See, I agree with you 100% on that. A-. It's close to being fantastic, but there's little tiny nitpicky things that I didn't like about it that keep it from hitting that upper echelon for me, I think.
Yeah, like, don't get us wrong, like, it is an amazing show. You should definitely watch it, especially now that all 8 episodes are out. You should definitely binge watch it. It's just, you know, it's just some things here and there just didn't quite click. Like, again, with Amber, there's some, like, visual aspects that were kind of, you know, a little wonky, I'm not gonna lie. But other than that, it's still a really good show.
It looks just like the comic book. I'll give it that. They're very faithful as far as art style.
Yeah, it is very faithful.
And then what was your favorite episode?
I don't know. I guess I had to give it to the last episode.
Right. That was a good episode, but I think mine is actually number 5, That Actually Hurt, where he teams up with the rock guy.
Oh, Titan?
Yeah, where he teams up with Titan.
Yeah.
Dude, Titan played him. Titan played him so hard.
Yeah. He basically played him like a fiddle.
I mean, that was like when Vertigo popped back in at the end of the episode, started talking to the boss, I thought Machine Head had like a copy of himself and he's like slipped out. And then Titan turns around and I'm like, what?
Yeah. It was
that blew my mind.
It wasn't Vertigo. His name was Isotope.
Oh, Isotope.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Isotope. But dang, dude, like I was thinking that Titan was like turning a leaf. Like I legit bought it. He'd have played me too.
Yeah, I mean, he's technically turning a leaf, but it's just, I don't know, like he's not gonna use this just like to gain money. He's actually using this money to kind of like Robin Hood in a sense, steal from the rich, give to the poor type deal. That's what he's trying to do.
So in the comics we see more of that character later on. Then
yes, we see a lot of these characters more later on.
Awesome,
yeah,
he's definitely one that I want to see again.
Like, these characters aren't just a one and done type deal. No, a lot of these characters are going to be coming back, and they'll have like significant parts of the story. For me, like, for my favorite, like, going back to what we asked earlier, to my favorite episode, which was the last episode. Reason why is because it honestly made me feel really, really sad. Like, I think I was like one of the this is one of the only shows that like almost made me have a tear in my eye, only for the fact of Mark was getting his ass kicked, his ass handed to, and then watching and then his dad making him kill all these people like unintentionally, and having all this blood spilled, all these, like, you know, all these murders that could have been avoided if Mark had been stronger, or if Mark had just decided to be with his dad. It just felt like, it's just really disheartening. And then J.K. Simmons just a phenomenal actor, and Steven Yeun, like just those two going at it, like having the duality of these two like people portraying these characters and their emotions, it just really hit different. And like the biggest kicker to me was when at the final part of the fight where his dad asked him, what will you have in 500 years? And Invincible saying, you dad, I'll have you. And then him leaving Earth with that, and he was actually crying at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like Mark finally got to him, like, yes, Omni-Man is loyal to Viltrumite. He is, a Viltrumite through and through, but he still has emotions. Like,
right.
He says like, oh, I don't feel anything, your mom was like a pet to me type deal. But just him like finally getting to him and realizing, I actually do love this planet, I actually do love these people, and him leaving as a sign of, I need to get out of here, just really hit home to me.
Right. And doubling back on what you said about J.K. Simmons, he did do a phenomenal job as Nolan and Omni-Man, but that last episode made me hate Omni-Man so much. Like, I'm a father, and to watch a father do that to his kid, I have issues with that episode.
Yeah.
So I get it, it's a comic book and none of it's real, but I had a pretty intense emotional reaction, I think, to that when I saw it happen. You don't do that. You raise your kid, you protect your kid, you don't cause your kid harm.
Yeah, of course.
So for me I think that was probably my least favorite episode because of that. But I can definitely see how that struggle emotionally carries a great storyline. But I can't get behind parents beating their kids.
No, yeah,
it hurts me.
Of course.
Like, but speaking of other characters that I would like to see come back, Space Cat. Does Space Cat come back?
Space Cat. Oh, I forgot who Space Cat was.
The one who cratered Invincible's stomach.
I forgot his name. But no, he definitely comes back. He'll definitely come back.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And in case you guys don't know, they did announce season 2 and 3 have both been confirmed by Amazon,
which is actually amazing.
So we have at least 16 more episodes of Invincible coming that we know of, and that makes me really excited.
Yeah, I wonder how they're gonna plan out those 2 seasons, because I know for this season they only did 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sitting here wondering, all right, well, is the next, is season 2 and 3 gonna both be 8 episodes, or are there gonna be 10 episodes a season, or what? But it's gonna be weird.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them hit the 13 episode mark. That seems to be kind of like the sweet spot for a lot of these streaming shows, as they hit 13, which is like half of a normal season of television.
Yeah.
Because I think 22 to 26 is a normal season of television. So I would love to see 13 episodes, but even if we only get 8, man, I'm gonna take whatever they give me. This show is that good. If you guys have not watched it, you need to check it out. It is that good.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
All right, man. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
My actual, going off on favorite people, there's one other set of people that I didn't get to speak about, is the Mueller Twins. They were amazing. Like, yes, they're evil, but it's like, I don't know, something about them is just like, I fairly enjoy their presence, like their witty banter, how like smart they were, how like they know everything, like how they'll know like everything going on around them. It's like they're not 2 big blockheads that all care about just destroying. No, they're actually calculative. They're actually like thinking things through, and it's so weird, but like just watching them, it's like I was like, man, I actually like these guys.
Yeah, I really liked later in the season when they're helping Robot, he's explaining that the transfer of the mind has to be an exact copy. Neither one can know which one is the clone and which one's the real one. He said because that just caused problems, which means he's gone through this multiple times, cloning himself and learning what the best way to do it is. I think that just like little lines like that give you that history of the character. I mean, it's good stuff. I do want to see more of him too.
Yeah, and then what's even more ridiculous is that you don't know who's the clone anymore at that point, because the original could have died a long time ago, but the copies are still going on.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because like we do see one of them die, and then he creates another one, but we don't know if the one who did the creating was the original, or a clone.
Exactly.
It's such a crazy concept for a character. I really do dig it.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of this show is. It's just like take superhero things that you know and kind of flip them on their heads a little bit. Like they amp things up and they twist things a little bit. I mean, in one episode, I think it was episode 5, they ended up fighting a guy who uses like his intestines as whips.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was crazy. But yeah, the whole show is just a roller coaster. Like I said, outside of my issue with the Omni-Man and Invincible fight, just from being a parent, the show itself is fantastic. Absolutely give it a watch. If you have younger children, do not watch it with them.
Yeah, unless you don't mind, then go right ahead. But still, it's a show not meant for kids that don't know what's the difference between violence in a show and violence in real life is.
Right. I mean, there's a reason it says parental discretion is advised.
Yeah.
And then one last thing I wanted to point out, one thing they did in every episode before we wrap things up. The first time they say his superhero name, the first time they say Invincible in every episode, it pops the title card. Instead of saying the word Invincible, it just pops the title card for the show. And I think it's an interesting thing, but I don't want to see it continue into season 2.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing I liked about that is that every time it popped up, more and more blood came on.
I was gonna ask you if that happened because I thought I was imagining it.
No, at the end, like at the beginning of every episode, it's just like obviously you get a little blood more and more, and like it's even crazier. It's even crazier concept is that they leave that blood onto the next episode title card, so that way it just keeps on adding and adding and adding, which is actually really well done.
Right, because especially for Mark, he just keeps shedding more of his own blood as the series goes on.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, guys. So final verdict from Iz and I is definitely give this show a watch if you haven't. I really enjoyed it, and I'm super looking forward to season 2. How about you, Iz?
I am definitely looking forward for a season 2. This show is going to blow my mind more than the comic did, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy that.
All right, guys. As always, keep it tuned here to 5-9 Gaming for all things entertainment, and we will see you in the next one.
Later.